Welcome to the day 3 of the speaking challenge. Today, we are going to be focusing on the past tense. So, today's speaking challenge, it's about talking about past events. We are going to practice with 5 verbs in the past. Sentences, and at the end you will have to talk about a past experience using one or two of the verbs. I will give you my own example so you can practice, you can see, you can repeat the sentences. Obviously you can practice shadowing, but the idea is that you can also write at least 2-3 sentences telling a past experience, forcing your memory to bring those words that you have learned in the past and make you speak. Okay, so yes, this exercise, I'm sure it's not going to be the easiest, but it's the beginning to help your memory bring those words that you have learned, but you don't use every day. And that's what's going to help you day by day get used to use the language. So let's begin with the pronunciation part. The easiest part, by the way. This is the pronunciation and shadowing. The verb that we're seeing, it's report. This is in the present. In the past, we say reported. Reported. So in this case, this T, it's like disappeared, and we say reported. Reported. We reported the incident to the police. Again, we reported the incident to the police. The second sentence, I reported the problem with the login to the IT department. Again, I reported the problem with the login to the IT department. Great. Now, vamos con la segunda. Let's go with the second verb. The second verb that we have is schedule. So the pronunciation here is like schedule. 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 And in the past, it's the same, just that we add the D. So we say scheduled. Scheduled. And I'm going to show you a trick. So I scheduled. Vamos a practicar solo ese pedacito. I scheduled. What I'm trying to avoid is the S sound before the S. So, ¿cómo evito ese sonido de E antes de la S? Because that is from our native Spanish. So we say, I imagine that you're saying this. I scheduled. I scheduled. I scheduled. I scheduled. Okay, now let's go and say the complete sentence. I scheduled the meeting for 3 o'clock on Friday. I scheduled the meeting for 3 o'clock on Friday. So here we have in the image, schedule. Schedule is the same as, put something in a calendar, okay? Or make an appointment. Agree to meet with someone at a time on a certain day at certain time. I scheduled the meeting for 3 o'clock on Friday. Let's go with the second sentence. She scheduled the appointment with the doctor. And here again, she scheduled. Instead of say I schedule, we say she's scheduled. So she scheduled the appointment with the doctor. Good. Let's go with the next verb. Participate, participated. Participate, participated. I participated in the event. I participated in the event. Now you repeat. The second sentence. They participated in the meeting yesterday. They participated in the meeting yesterday. Participate, participated is like the it sound here. Participated. They participated in the meeting yesterday. Easy peasy. This one is kind of easy. Travel, traveled. Traveled, traveled. Thus, this E is mute. We don't pronounce it. Travel, traveled. Let's go with the sentences. She traveled to Paris last month. She traveled to Paris last month. I have traveled to Mexico twice this year. I have traveled to Mexico twice this year. So in this sentence of I have traveled to Mexico twice this year, the word twice means 2 times. So instead of saying I have traveled 2 times, I can say I have traveled to Mexico twice this year. When you have done something 2 times, you can use this word twice. If you do something twice a week, you can use 2 times a week, you can use twice a week. Now, this structure here, I have traveled. We use have plus the verb. And this verb is not exactly in the past tense, it's the past participle. Okay, so we use have plus the past participle to express that we have the experience of doing something. We have the experience to doing something. So if we compare it to Spanish, right, is when in Spanish we say yo he viajado. So the past participle representan nuestras terminaciones ado, ido, right? He viajado. Si estuviéramos hablando de ella, then I will say she. She has traveled to Mexico twice this year. Okay, and now you can automatize that. Instead of, if you don't want to talk about you want to talk about she or he, then that will be, she has traveled to Mexico twice this year. Okay, now shadow. Let's practice the repetition or the mimic shadowing. I have traveled to Mexico twice this year. Great. Now we're gonna go with our example of talking about a past experience. First, you are going to listen. This part, you are just going to listen. You are not going to repeat. You are just going to read and listen while I read this. My trip to Canada. I have been to Canada only once in my life. I traveled to that country in 1995. I was 16 years old, full of expectations for the experience, and it was my first time facing English in real life. I stayed with my aunt for 3 months, and at home, they had the rule to speak only in Spanish. That way, my cousin wouldn't lose his Spanish. But they made an exception for those 3 months. I came back to Panama fully in love of that country. The best trip of my life. Okay, so a few words here. Probably you have not seen only once. So twice, I told you, means 2 times. Once means 1 time. 1 time. I have been to Canada only once in my life. My cousin wouldn't lose. My cousin wouldn't lose. If I use that wouldn't and put an action there, that means that it's a imaginary situation. So he did not lose, but imagine it, but in imaginary. That is a conditional. So, de esa forma mi primo no perdiera. De esa, my cousin wouldn't lose, perdón, mi primo no perdería, right? That wouldn't forma ese futuro imaginario, algo que pasaría, pero really it is not real. De esa forma, that way, de esa forma, my cousin wouldn't lose, mi primo no perdería his Spanish, but they made an exception for those 3 months. In this paragraph, you saw that I used the verb traveled. Traveled. I use another verb in the past, stayed. Okay, and I came back. It's also in the past. So that is the idea. You narrate, think about a past experience, a trip, a job interview, and imagine that you need to tell about that experience to somebody. How did you feel? What were your expectations? And then go ahead and write it, and then speak out loud. You have to do this part of speaking. That is why it's a speaking challenge. So drop in the comments, let me know in the comments if you did it, how do you feel with this, and I will see you tomorrow for day 4. Bye-bye.